Hey, what's going on, everybody? Josh Cathcart back here at Hardball Academy in Pearland, Texas with Hitting Done Right. For this next instructional video, I'm going to discuss the swing sequence, okay? How our swing works from the ground up. If you talk to hitting instructors, talk to other baseball coaches, most any swing sport, there is a sequence that works from the ground up. We have to have a good foundation, okay? I have a saying here that I tell my hitters all the time: sloppy feet equals sloppy swings. All right, if we don't have good ground connection, if we don't use the ground properly and use the biomechanical sequence up into our swing, it kind of falls apart. Okay, so the first thing to understand with this is the phases. Okay, when we get going, everybody has their stance. All right, and there is some sort of load move. This can vary based on player. All right, some guys are going to have a big leg kick, some guys are going to have a smaller leg kick, toe touches, all different, okay? But the load is first, all right? So for me, I have kind of a modified leg kick, would just be right here, okay? Back into the hip, small leg kick, into what is launch, okay? So we have load into launch. When I land in launch, okay, for a split second, all right, I'm going to show it in slow motion, but for a split second, the ball of my foot will hit the ground, and then I get into what we call heel plant or heel strike, okay? That front foot interaction with the ground is now going to get going up into my legs, around my backside, and allow me to get into my hips and core, okay? See a lot of young players that as that front foot is approaching the ground, they're already coming with their hands, okay? And that gets us into a really big push swing, and it gets us out of sequence, okay? So we would be load into this launch position, heel plant, and the hips start to fire. As the backside starts to fire, we're gonna get up into our core. It's gonna come up and around into the back, shoulders, and then out the arms and hands, all right? Extension is the last phase of this. And this is a little dicey for people, okay? Extension is not something that should be forced. We are not pushing out to extension, all right? Extension is just the proper release of energy when timing, direction, and sequence all meet up, okay? That's why when you see these beautiful home runs and rope doubles and everything else, you see this nice, pretty extension. And then on other swings, you may see guys get stuck. Okay, it's because that timing of direction may be off. All right, so again, load into launch, heel strike, and then the hips. All right, that is the sequence of the body. Working from the ground up, people can call it the tornado effect. All right, if you're talking about the phases of the swing, we would have load into launch, and then as the hip goes, we get into connection. As we start our turn, we're connecting the backside. As we continue the turn and that bat starts to get parallel to the ground right here, this would be lag position, which is what we want. We don't want drag, we do want lag, okay? And then from there, release the barrel into contact, from contact out to extension, all right? So those are the phases of the swing, as well as how the swing works from the ground up. It is extremely important to video and let kids see how those hips start to fire while the hands are still staying back. Over and over and over again, you will have young players that start bringing those hands early. Couple of reasons. Number one, they're just not strong enough in their core to resist it back as they stride forward. Number two, they don't trust their swing, and so they're just trying to feel for the ball out there, because when we're talking about the younger kids, the worst thing that they think can happen to them is to swing and miss. They understand that their hands hold the bat. They understand that the bat hits the ball, and so they're trying to go get it instead of allowing the ball to get to them and then use proper sequence. All right, getting kids to trust that turn is very difficult. It takes a lot of work, practice, okay? We have a med ball drill video that I did earlier, which is great for this, getting them into their core. All right, I'm gonna show y'all 3 simple drills today with this video for sequence, but it is something that you should not only understand, make sure your hitters understand, but practice daily, okay? Or every time you hit, if you're not hitting every day, but all the time. We have to be cognizant of that. There are drills that are going to isolate the upper half if you need some work, and if that's what you need, fine. But for the majority, we always want to look lower half first, working from the ground up. Like I said, that tornado effect, check it on video and make your swing the most efficient it can be. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get to these drills. All right, so I've got 3 drills for y'all in regards to sequence, okay? 2 of them are gonna involve the PVC pipe. I love the PVC pipe. It's so versatile, use it for a lot of things here at the Academy. The other one is gonna be a full swing with focus on sequence in the lower half into the core. All right, so this first one, just gonna take that PVC, act like you were holding a bat. You can go ahead and get the kids into launch, and then we're just gonna kind of work this down into the ground right there. From this point, we want to hold the hands still as the lower body starts to work. I do have my front heel up ever so slightly right here. I don't want to get up on my toe because that usually leads to a big spin and my heel never gets into the ground. Like I said earlier, that heel connection is kind of the trigger for the swing that's going to get everything else going. All right, there should be a moment of flat feet, okay, where both feet are flat on the ground. You have a kid that starts coming and they start popping up out of that backside, we're out of sequence, okay? So here, front heel up, front heel down into the hips, and feel the core start to stretch right there. If you have the kid that starts doing this, that's a dead giveaway that they're not getting the right amount of stretch and the sequence is off, okay? So that's all this is. Heel down, hip turn. Heel down, hip turn. You can notice the back elbow starts to work under as this front shoulder starts to work slightly up as I get into the core rotation and the hips, okay? Really effective for players that don't ever feel the sequence, okay? Just have them hold this pole right here, feel that turn. It creates the stretch in the core, which ultimately allows us to whip the barrel through. All right, so that's the first one. The next one with the PVC is one that people have seen all of the time, okay? Just PVC across the shoulders. I don't like to get down here because then it gets wobbly, okay? Just across the elbows and shoulders right here. On this one, for posture reasons, this is great, but for this, I'm just gonna use this for sequence. I'm gonna try to resist the top part, meaning it's not gonna come forward as my hips go to turn. Same idea with the front foot, ball of the foot, heel up. As that heel goes down, hips start to fire. You should see that back knee start to work under as that happens. Okay, if you get the one-piece swingers, as soon as they start to turn, everything comes here and that head's gonna move. Okay, so just resist here and turn. If you have the younger guys that just can't quite get this, you may wanna hold this pole. You can just stand right behind them and just hold this with your hand and let them try to get into the hips. All right, so those are 2 really good warm-up drills that isolate the hips and if done properly, really create good stretch. All right, the next one would just be T-swings. But on here, before we take our full swing, we would go through our stance, load phase, into launch, and then feel those hips again. Notice the backside starts to work down and back as the front shoulder starts to work slightly up, okay? That would be load, launch, into connection right here, all right? So I'd like to do that a couple times. Get all the way into that connection, and then come back and make your swing, okay? You should have a really good feel of how that is working from the ground up, all right? What you want to avoid, and when kids get out of sequence, is they get here, and when they start to turn, everything starts coming this way. It's like they're pushing those hands, and all of this is turning together. There should be hips going as the top half resist. This would be hip and shoulder separation, okay? And then into that connection phase. If you want to go ahead and get turned all the way into lag, you can right here, okay? But I prefer just to get to this where that knob is directed at the ball, come back and make your swing. Okay, so that is the T-swings. Just really fine focus on that sequence in the beginning. All right, y'all, so that concludes the video on swing sequence, okay? Remember, there is a body sequence that we are talking about, how our body interacts with the ground, the tornado effect working from the ground up. There is also the swing phase sequences, understanding load, launch, connection, lag, contact, extension, the phases of the swing. Okay, so when we're dealing with sequence, let's be sure that we're talking about the same thing, number one, but overall understanding how the swing works from the ground up, getting players to feel themselves swing with their hips and core. That's another thing that I say a lot to players here. Okay, swing from the middle, don't swing with the arms and hands. Get out of the arms and hands, get into the core. Okay, this is the proper way to do it. Like I said, this is for all swing sports. You're talking golf, you're talking hockey, you're talking baseball, softball, everything working from the ground up, release of energy out the hands at the end. So I hope the information helps. As always, if y'all have any questions, please feel free to reach out, like and subscribe to the channel. Y'all be good.